good morning students and welcome to class. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about tips and gratuities, but we're going to start this morning by just reviewing a little bit about what we've been going over this past week in dealing with the percent equation and things like tax and percent of change. So who can remind me what is in the percent equation? What makes up our percent equation? Aiden, can you remind us? Correct. The percent equation is part equals, and right now part is always what we're trying to find, so part equals percent times whole. Now, are we allowed to use percent the way it's given to us in a problem? So yesterday we talked about taxes and we talked about how local taxes are 8.75%. Do I use 8.75%? Charlotte? Right, we have to convert that percent to a decimal. And how do we convert percents to decimals? I don't remember. Do you remember, Kevin? Ah, yes, we have to move the decimal sign 2 places to the left. Good. So move decimal 2 places. I'm not going to write the word left, I'm just going to write a big arrow there to the left. Great job. Now yesterday we learned about a special kind of percent called tax. And we talked about how we all have to pay tax when we buy things. When you get older and you make money, you're going to have to pay income tax. You have to pay property tax if you own property. When you calculated tax, how did we have to do that? Like if we went to a store or something and you bought some items, how would you do the tax there? Rowan? Yes, exactly. You would take the cost of an item plus the tax, which you would find using the percent equation, because, actually I'm going to erase that arrow, the tax is actually part of what you have to pay, right? So the cost of the item, or the items, plus the tax equals your total cost. There we go. Great. Okay, so we're going to take that idea of tax and we're going to apply it to a new concept today called tip. Now, how many of you have ever been out, maybe at a restaurant, maybe getting your hair cut, and heard your parents talk about having to pay a tip? Yes, Gavin, what do you remember about a tip? Okay, so it's money when you get your hair cut that you have to pay right to the barber. Okay, good. What does anybody else know about a tip? Charlotte? Okay, the tip is extra. It's not what the price says maybe on the sign or in a menu or something like that. Good. Rowan? Oh, you've heard about tips at restaurants, so you have to tip a waitress or a waiter when you have service at a restaurant. Okay. Has anybody heard about how you figure out what the tip is? Have your parents ever talked to you about how to figure out a tip? Aiden? Oh, you've heard your parents say, you know, like I'm going to tip 15% or I'm going to tip 20% of the bill. Okay, so does that sound familiar to anybody? Oh, it sounds like tax. Oh, okay. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. We're going to be getting into tips and how to leave a tip and where to leave a tip. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. And then we're going to talk about how to calculate it and find your total cost. But you're going to notice that it's a lot like doing taxes. It's almost exactly the same as doing taxes, which is nice because then we already have practice with it. There's another word that we use for tip sometimes. It's a little bit of a fancier word. Does anybody know maybe what another word for a tip would be? Okay, open up your workbooks to page 152. down at the bottom. We already did these examples yesterday on sales tax. So go down to the bottom where it says tips and markups. I'm not going to deal with markups today, but we are going to look at tips. I want you to read that sentence to yourself or read it quietly in a library voice with your table partner. And I want you to raise your hand if you can come up with another word for tip. Starting to see some hands going up. Give you guys just another few seconds. Okay, Rowan, did you find another word for tip? Gratuity, gratuity. It's already highlighted there for you, so we don't need to use our highlighters just yet. Let's read that together, why don't we? A tip or gratuity is a small amount of money in return for a service. The total price is the regular price of the service plus the tip. And that sounds familiar. That sounds like taxes. It's the regular price of an item plus the extra. Yesterday it was taxes. Today it's tips equals the total cost. Okay? So let's talk about a few places where before we talk about that, let's go ahead and add to our word wall. Let's see, our word wall already has these two words, sales tax, which we talked about yesterday, and percent equation, which we dealt with last week. So we're going to add today's two new vocabulary words, tip and gratuity. And we now know that tip and gratuity are actually the same thing. They're really the same. They have the exact same meaning. Just one's more of an informal word. Tip is a little bit more informal. Gratuity is a little bit more formal. It sounds a little fancier. So we're going to tack those up on our word wall as part of our percent chapter. So where would you leave a tip? Where are some places that you have maybe heard your parents or seen your parents leave a tip where it would be expected in the United States for us as customers to leave a tip? Because not all over the world do people tip. Sometimes it's actually really rude to tip. But here in the United States, it's not. Here in the United States, you are expected to tip. And why do we tip, by the way? Charlotte? Yeah, when somebody does a good job. It's on top of their regular salary. It gives them a little extra money, and it's our way in the United States of saying, thanks, we think you did a really good job. So let's have some hands up. Where have you seen or heard your parents talk about leaving a tip? Gavin? Restaurant, okay. We mentioned that already. We definitely want to leave a tip at a restaurant. And what type of restaurant do we leave a tip at? Do we leave a tip at McDonald's? No. Would we leave a tip if we went to, say, Chili's? Yes. What's the difference between those two restaurants? Why do we leave a tip at Chili's and not at McDonald's? Right. You have a waiter or a waitress. So I'm going to call wait staff. The food is brought out to you. Good. It's not that you have to go up to the counter and pick it up yourself. Who cleans the tables at, say, McDonald's when you're all done eating? You clean your own table, okay? And that's a really big reason as to why you don't leave a tip. It's if you are cleaning your own table, you don't need to leave a tip. So any restaurant where they are going to come and clear your dishes away, you should probably leave them a tip, okay? Where else might we leave a tip? Okay, at the hair salon or barber, good. Why do you think it's important to leave a tip to your hairstylist or your barber? Rowan? Because you don't want a bad haircut. No, you don't. You want them to remember you and know that you are a tipping person so they do a good job. Because you don't want to come out with just a bald head, huh? Okay. Where else might we leave a tip? Has anybody seen anywhere else where you might leave a tip? Okay, maybe in a hotel. Sometimes we leave a tip in a hotel if you go on vacation. Who are you leaving a tip for in the hotel? Yeah, for the people that come to clean your rooms. Good. Where else might you leave a tip? If you take your dog to get groomed. Good. Okay. So a groomer might get a tip if you take your dog to get a bath somewhere. Because again, kind of like a hair salon or a barber, you want them to do a good job. All right. Okay, so let's get into what it takes to calculate a tip, because this is important information. Hopefully at some point in your life you're going to get to go and eat out at a restaurant where you'd have to leave a tip, or hopefully you're going to have to go get your hair cut at some point in time and know to leave your barber a tip. All right, let's take a look at example 2 on page 153. So everyone go ahead and go to the top of page 153 in your workbook, and we're going to look through the examples. So the book here actually shows us the answer, doesn't it? We've seen this before in other lessons. The book works through the problem for us and shows us exactly what to do to get the right answer. So we're going to take a look at that model 2, follow through, make some notes of our own, okay? So, Aiden, can you read that for us, the problem? Good. A customer wants to tip 15% on a restaurant bill that is $35. What will the total bill with tip? What will be the total bill with tip? Excuse me. Okay, so we're going to go to that percent equation that you guys mentioned earlier, and let's get our percent equation set up. So we can use our highlighters. They've got it in blue there, but let's go ahead and take our highlighters and highlight where it says part equals percent times whole. Okay, let's highlight that because that's important information. And let's label that off to the side. That's our percent equation. And just a reminder that we're using our percent equation. Now our part is what we don't know. So they're using the letter T there to stand for tip, equals the percent. All right. The percent in the problem, if we go up to the top, reread the problem again, what's the percent, Rowan? 15%. All right, let's highlight that. And you'll notice off to the side, we didn't use 15%. We changed 15% to 0.15 because we moved that decimal place 2 spaces to the left. Okay, go ahead and type that into your, times, and then your whole. Your whole is the bill. And the bill, let's find that in the story. What was the bill? Oh, $35. All right, let's highlight that piece of important information. And we substitute that in. So our our percent is 0.15. Our whole amount of the service is $35. Go ahead and type that into your calculator. I know it gives us an answer there, but type it in the calculator. Make sure it's right. 0.15 times 35. And show of hands, how many of you got 5.25 showing on your calculator? Excellent, excellent. So is 5.25 our answer? No, just like yesterday. Remember the question asked, what will the total bill be? What will the total bill be? 5.25 is not the total bill, is it? It's the tip, right. So total bill, how are we going to get total bill? Yeah, let's add that sentence. It tells us right there what to do. Next, add the tip to the bill. Let's highlight that. So here is our tip, $5.25. We're just bringing that down from the line above, plus the $35 that the story told us we were spending, and that gives us a total bill of $40.25. Okay. Any questions on that one? All right. Method 2 is going to use the same problem again. It's just going to show us another way to do problems because remember, everybody's brain works differently. So some of you might really like method 1. This is the method that I like personally. I like to find the tips separate and then add them together because that's how my brain works. And your brain might work the same way and it might work differently. So we're going to try a different way and then you can decide which one you like. Okay? All right, let's try method 2. Same idea. Okay, we've done this before in percent equation as well. You know that you're going to have to pay the bill plus the tip. Just like yesterday, we had to pay the bill plus the tax. The bill is 100% of what you got to pay. So that's where the first number comes from, right? 100% of what you got to pay. But in this case, you want to leave an extra 15%. That's why we have the plus 15%. So if we're paying the 100% of the bill plus an extra 15% of the bill for a tip, that gives us a total of 115%. So we're not just going to pay 100% of the bill, we're going to pay 115% because that's the bill plus the tip. Now we use that percent equation again. Here it is. Part equals percent times whole. Let's label that again as our percent equation. This time, the total is considered the part. It's a little confusing that they use T in both places, but this time T is standing for total, equals our percent. Now our percent was 115%, but we know we need to convert that to a decimal, so 1.15, times our whole of 35. Now type this into your calculator, 1.15 times 35, and you get 40.25. Look at that, same total, both methods. Pretty cool, right? Let's go ahead and box that total in both areas, just like we would when we do a good assignment. All right, I want you to skip example 3 for now. Let's jump down here to problem B. Andrew got it. Okay. Charlotte, can you read that for us? Scott wants to tip his taxi cab driver 20%. If his commute costs $15, what is the total cost? Okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure out the answer to this problem? Well, show of hands. How many of you prefer method 1? Figure out the tips separate and then add them together. Okay. How many of you preferred method 2? Putting the percents together to get your total. A lot of you liked method 2. Okay, let's do method 2 then. All right, so we're going to first write in words our percent equation, just like they did in method 2. We're just going to copy this exact problem-solving method using the numbers from a new story, okay? So let's start by writing in our margin. Let's label problem B, and we're going to write part equals percent times whole. Just like that, off to the side. Problem B, good. Okay, now let's go ahead and figure out what our percent is going to be. So we know we have to pay 100% of the taxi cab fare, right? Okay, so we have to pay 100%. Plus, what's the extra tip we're going to pay in this particular problem? 20%, good. So we had to pay the 100% to ride the taxi. Plus, we're going to pay an extra 20% because the guy did a good job. So that's a total of how much, what percent are we going to pay altogether? 120%, good. Okay, so I've got 120% there. Now we know we can't use 120% in our calculations because our percent needs to turn into a decimal. So raise your hand and tell me, what's 120% as a decimal? Gavin? 0.12, good. Okay. All right. We know our percent now. We know our whole because that was the total of the actual taxi cab ride. Let's go ahead and solve. Let's use T for our part for total equals our percent. We need to write as 0.12 because that's the decimal version times, let's see, our taxi cab ride was 15. And if we type that into our calculator, 0.12 times 15, what did we get? Yeah, take a moment, go ahead and type it in. Hold on, we did the percent wrong, didn't we? We did. We moved that percent too many places. I made a mistake. Can someone correct us, please? What should the percent actually be? 1.2. Yep, I don't know what I was thinking. So 1.2 times 15, and what did we get when we put that in? 18. That sounds more like it. So our total cost is 18, and what do we need to include in our answer? Dollars. Yes, we need to be precise. We didn't pay 18, because if we just say we paid 18, I wouldn't know what you paid 18 of. Did you pay 18 cats for the taxi cab ride? No, you paid $18, so we need to mark that and box our answer. Okay, I want you to go ahead and turn over to page 154. You see example 2 there? I'd like you to try example 2 with your table mate in a quiet library voice, please. I'm going to walk around and check for questions, check over your shoulder. Okay, let's come back together. Let's go over number 2. It says you had a $28 lunch and a 15% tip. All right, we're going to use that percent equation. So first we write part equals percent times whole. Let's go ahead and try method 1. Can someone who did method 1 talk me through this, please? Thank you, Rowan. Okay, we're going to use part. For part, let's use G for gratuity. So that T stands for total if we're doing the combining the percentages, and G stands for gratuity because we're just finding the gratuity in this particular method, and then we'll add it together. So gratuity equals, we have a 15% tip. And Rowan, how did you write 15% in your percent equation? 0.15, good, times whole. And what was your whole in this particular scenario? 28, good. Okay, so if you typed that into your calculator separate, if you were a method 1 person, you typed in 0.15 times 28. If you were a method 2 person, what did you type in? Yeah, if you did method 2, you typed in 1.15 times 28. Either way, you're going to get the same answer at the very end of the problem. Okay, method 1 people, 0.15 times 28, you get what? 4.2, good. Now 4.2 isn't our answer, is it? No, because we need to do total cost. So T for total cost is going to be that 4.2, which is the tip, plus the lunch, which was $28. And that gives us a total cost of what? Good, $32.20. Those of you that did method 2, did you get the same answer? If you typed in 1.15 times 28? You sure did, okay. So you should have one of these two options. One of these two options as showing your work. All right, let's take it a step further. Flip back to page 153. Let's take a look at sample problem number 3. You see sample problem number 3 there in the book? A haircut costs $20. Sales tax is 4.75%. Is $25 sufficient to cover the haircut with a tax and a 15% tip? Oh my goodness, we have to deal with tax and tip? That's a whole lot of stuff going on, okay? So let's first calculate all the percentages that we are adding on to our bill. So we know that our haircut costs $20, so that's our whole price. Let's highlight that. We have 2 different add-ons that we have to account for, sales tax and tip. So let's highlight our sales tax, and our sales tax is what in the story, Charlotte? 4.75, good. And then it also talks about a tip. What's the tip, Gavin? 15%, good. We're gonna have to pay both of those. So what can we do to those numbers to figure out like a total of overages. Add them together. Good. And that's exactly what they do here in the first line. The sales tax is 4.75. The tip is 15%. So together, if we added 4.75 and 15%, we would get 19.75%. Okay, so we're going to pay 19.75% over the cost of the haircut. We know we're going to use our percent equation, so let's just take a minute here and convert that to decimal form. 19.75% is what? Thank you, Aiden. Yep, 0.1975. Good. All right. Take a look at as the problem continues. Now we're ready for our percent equation. Part equals percent times whole. Always the same words. Let's go ahead and highlight it. And we always start every problem by writing that out in word form to remind us. Okay, again, they're using T to stand for tax and tip on this one, and that's our part. That's the little bit that we're trying to figure out. Equals our percent. We know we can't use the percent form of it, so we've changed it to a decimal, 0.1975, times the whole haircut costs $20. Type that into your calculator. Double check that the book did this right. Show of hands. Is the book right? Good. Okay, so 3.95 is indeed the tax and tip. So that's our overage. So to find out how much we're going to need to spend on this haircut, we have to pay the $20 for the haircut. Plus, we figured out that we were going to be paying an additional $3.95 in tax and tip. That gives us a grand total of $23.95. So is the $25 enough to pay for the haircut with the tax and tip? It sure is. All right, I want you to go ahead and try example C with your table partner, please. Okay, let's come back together and go over example C. So we're going to label it. Find the total cost of a spa treatment of $42, including 6% tax and 20% tip. All right, so first of all, let's figure out the tax and tip. Okay, our tax is 6%. Our tip is 20%. That gives us an overage of how much? Yep, 26%, perfect. Which is equivalent to what decimal value? 0.26, beautiful. Okay, so there we go, tax and tip, 0.26. All right, let's write out our percent equation. Part equals percent times whole. Okay, our part is going to be T for tax and tip. Our percentage is what? Yep, we've converted it to 0.26. Times our whole, the whole bill is, yep, $42. And we type that into our calculator, and we find that our tax and tip comes to $10.92. Now we're ready to find our total. So our total cost is going to be our tax and tip of $10.92 plus the spa treatment of $42, giving us a grand total of, yep, $52.92. Excellent job. Excellent job. All right, I'm going to give you a little bit of time now, not a whole lot of time, but a little bit of time to work on 5 independent practice problems, okay? Are you ready to mark? Have those highlighters ready? Looking at page 155, I want you to highlight problem 1 and 2. You're going to be doing problems 1 and 2. Problem 5, please highlight problem 5. Okay, turn the page. In the extra practice section, you're going to be doing problems 18 and 19. 18 and 19. Okay, so independent practice, 1, 2, 5, 18, and 19. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to work on that, and then we're going to move on to our group project. Okay, students, good work on the independent practice. Let's bring it back now. It's time for our group project. In a minute, but not yet, you are going to get into your regular working groups of 4. And coming around right now is Aiden, and he's going to hand out your parameters, your directions for your dining out project. You and your table mates are going to get to go out to lunch with a $100 budget. That's all the money you have. It's cash. You don't have credit cards, so that's all you can spend. What needs to be included in your lunch? Well, the food and drinks, anything like that, the tax on the food, and the tip to your waiter or waitress. Okay, so let's take a look at your parameters. First thing you need to do is you're going to need to decide where you're going to go to lunch. What restaurant do you want to go to? Second thing is everybody has to order something. Okay, everybody has to order something. You're allowed to share meals or do family style or any of that kind of thing if you would like to, but you got to make sure that everybody has a full meal to eat. Drinks are optional. If you guys want to have drinks, go ahead. If you don't, that's your option as well. If you want to do dessert and you have money for it, go ahead. Live it up. You have a $100 budget, so have fun picking what you'd eat. But keep in mind that you have to have enough money to cover the tax and tip. Okay? So tax in this area is 8.75%, so that's what you're going to need to use. Tip, we're going to go ahead and hope that you get great service, and we're going to leave our waiters and waitresses a 20% tip on the bill. Okay? So what you're going to do is after you've discovered your restaurant, you're going to Google it, find a menu online so that you can check the prices of your items, because you definitely don't want to go over budget because they're going to send you to the back to do dishes to make up for the money that you owe them. And you're going to figure out what you would all order. You're going to figure out what the subtotal is. That's the cost of just the food and drinks. Then you can figure out the tax, which I want you to figure out all by itself, and the tip all by itself, so that you can come up with a grand total. And you're going to create a poster showing all this information so that at the end of the period you can come up and present it to the class. Each of you can present what you ordered and what it cost to the class. I've got my poster up here, and it'll serve as a guideline. Here's my menu from the restaurant my family chose to go to. My family chose to go to Roma's Pizza. It's our favorite restaurant near our house. And you can see what everybody in my family ordered. So I've listed my order. So I ordered a veggie pizza that cost $20 and a small salad that cost $6. One of my kids picked lasagna and carrot cake, so lasagna cost $9 and carrot cake was $4. Another of my sons made his own special pizza of pepperoni and pineapple. Ugh. That cost $16. And then my daughter had a crispy chicken salad and some tiramisu. Okay, so $10 and $4. So that came out to a $69 dinner for us, the 4 of us. Now tax at 8.75%, you can see down here, I calculated tax using my percent equation. So tax for us came out to $6.04. I left a 20% tip, and here's where I showed you how I calculated my tip. So our tip was $13.80. When I add that all together, it gives you the final cost of our meal, the total cost of our meal, which was $88.84. Okay, so you're going to create a poster much like this. It doesn't have to look exactly the same, but it should have all the same information. What did each person order? What was the subtotal or the cost of all the food there? What was the tax total? What was the tip? And then what is the complete total cost of the meal? And please show me how you got your tax and tip numbers. Okay? All right, you guys have about 20 minutes or so to work on this, and then we're going to reconvene as a whole group so that everybody can have a chance to share with us what they ordered, how they came up with their tax and tip, and let us know what their final cost was, okay? Have fun, ladies and gentlemen.